Math Blast 3, Patterns for Powers of 10. Find the value of n in each number sentence. Show how you know. I'm going to take the 530 and write it on the first row of my place value chart here. I know to the left of the decimal I have the ones, tens, and hundreds place. There are 5 hundreds, 3 tens, and 0 ones in 530. I need to divide by 10 to the n power to get a result of 5 and 3 tenths. I'm going to write this 5 and 3 tenths on the second row of my place value chart. 5 ones and 3 tenths. I know that when my digits shift on the place value chart to the right, I'm dividing by a power of 10 for each shift. So since my 5 shifted 2 times to the right on the place value chart, as did each of my other numbers, and the 0 would just be like nothing here, I have divided by 10, not just once, but twice. That's the same as dividing by 100, also known as dividing by 10 to the second power. N equals 2. I'm going to take the 2 and 9 tenths and place it in my place value chart. 2 and 9 tenths multiplied by 10 to the 4th power. When I multiply by 10 to the 4th power, there's going to be a shift on the place value chart 4 times. Each digit on the place value chart will shift to the left 4 places. 1, 2, 3, 4. My new 2 is here. My 9 shifts to here. All other places here need to have zeros in order to hold my place values here. So n is equal to 29,000. Comparing decimal numbers. Use the correct relational symbol to make each sentence true. I'm going to write my 38 and 2 tenths in standard form, knowing that to the right of the decimal is the tenths place. I'm going to write 38 and 19 hundredths in standard form as well. Keep in mind to the right of the decimal I have the tenths and the hundredths place. I now can compare place value to place value. 3's in my tens, 8's in my ones, 2 versus 1 in my tenths place. 2 is greater than 1, so this number, 38 and 2 tenths, is greater than 38 and 19 hundredths. Here I'm given unit form. I'm going to write 305 tenths in standard form. I want my number to end in the tenths place. That is 1 place to the right of the decimal. But I need 2 more places to account for all my digits. So when I write my number, 30 and 5 tenths is the same as 305 tenths. Here, my number needs to end in the hundredths place. To the right of the decimal are the tenths and hundredths. So I need 2 more places here to account for all 4 digits. 0, 5, 0, and 3. 30 and 50 hundredths is the same thing as 30 and 3,050 hundredths. Now I can compare place value to place value. Tens, ones, tenths, and no hundredths is the same thing as 0 hundredths. So these 2 numbers are equal. Here I am given expanded form. 4 times 100 is 400, plus 5 times 1 tenth is 5 tenths. Add the 2 together and we get 400 and 5 tenths. Again, 4 times 100 is 400, and 5 times 1 is 5. Add the 2 together, and we get 405. Comparing place value to place value. So important when we're comparing numbers here. Hundreds, both have 4s. Tens, ones. My ones place, I see a different digit. 0 versus 5. 0 is less than 5, so this number is less than this number. Measurement conversions. If 1,000 millimeters equals 1 meter, then 3,500 millimeters equals how many meters? Well, we learn here that the conversion factor for millimeters to meters is 1,000. And since we're converting from a smaller unit to a larger unit, we need to divide by 1,000. Also known as division by 10 to the third power. So if I think about my number 3,500 on a place value chart, I want my digits to shift. Since we're dividing, they're going to shift to the right 3 times. And so, don't forget our decimal. 3,500 millimeters is equal to 3 5/10 meters. If 1 foot equals 12 inches, then 2 feet equals 2 times the 12 inches, which is 24 inches. Write expressions. Write the numerical expression for each phrase. An expression is a group of numbers, variables, and operations. 3 times the difference of 8 and 2. I want 3 times, I know, is multiplication. The difference is a key word here, meaning the answer to a subtraction problem. So I want to figure out the answer to 8 minus 2. And that needs to be done first because I'm taking that difference and multiplying it by 3. So if I don't have these parentheses here, then I would be finding 3 times 8 and subtracting 2 from that, which does not match the phrase. The quotient of 28 and 7. Quotient, again, is another key vocabulary word meaning the answer to a division problem. So I need to divide 28 by 7. Rounding. Round 48 and 578 thousandths to the nearest given place value. Here we're rounding to the nearest ones place. So I'm going to look and see how many ones is my number made up of. And so all the way to the ones place here, I know that I have 48 ones now. And if I add on one more 1, I would be at 49 ones. My halfway or midpoint between 48 and 49 is 48 and a half. 48.5 here. I want to place my number on this vertical number line. So I know it's going to be just above the 48 and 5/10. And since it's above the midpoint, it's going to round up to 49. Anything at or above the midpoint will round up. Anything below the midpoint would round down. Here we're rounding to the nearest tenths. I'm going to come back to my given number, and I'm going to look at the tenths place, and everything in front of that is the total number of tenths that I would have in my number. And so I have 485 tenths, which we know is written as 48 and 5/10. If I add on one more, I would have 486 tenths. Now keep in mind I'm adding on one more tenth. And so that is written as 48 and 6/10. And right in the middle of 485 tenths and 486 tenths would be 485 and a half, or in this case, it's written as 48 and 55 tenths, or hundredths, sorry. If I place my number on the number line here, it's going to be about here. And again, that's above the midpoint, so it will round up to 48 and 6/10. Lastly, I need to round to the nearest hundredths place. And so with that in mind, I'm going to determine how many hundredths my number is made up of. So I have 4,857 hundredths. And if I add on one more, it would be 4,858 hundredths. Now written in standard form, this is 48 and 57 hundredths. and this is 48 and 58 hundredths. Now I need to decide the halfway point, or the midpoint here, and so I will have 48 and 575 thousandths. There's my midpoint number here. And so when I place my actual number on my vertical number line, it's going to be about here, which again is above the midpoint, so in this case it will round up to 48 and 58 hundredths.